Imagine witnessing children having been made so ignorant of their true reality that they march towards a real battlefield carrying toy guns. No decent person could witness such a heartbreaking scenario and not act. Because certainly, if not corrected, those children will be slaughtered. Likewise, that scenario is equivalent to witnessing our people trying to liberate ourselves based upon a biblical fairy tale and a silly slave syndrome myth. Certainly, if not corrected, our people will be slaughtered because such profound ignorance directly contributes to our own destruction. It's why those of us who know the truth must teach African proverb. Our people are currently drowning in so much false information in regards to our plight and condition, and it's all by deliberate design. Presently, there are white men that specializes in psychiatry and propaganda that works unrelentingly behind the scenes, perpetually manipulating the collective minds of the black masses. These men govern our minds, molds our opinions, and shapes our beliefs in ways that serves and protects the interests of the white society. In 1968, it was determined that by feeding false information into our communities regarding our plight and condition, that this would then keep all of our liberating remedies and strategies that stems from those misunderstandings also flawed. And we can then be ruled over forever. This is the true reason why our communities are now drowning in so much false information in regards to our plight and condition. It's why many of us now believe that we're the true Jews found within a fictional Bible written by our most ungodly enemies. It's why many African Americans now believes that we're not from Africa, but are instead the true indigenous Americans, although countless millions of us have taken DNA analysis that have scientifically confirmed that we are in fact from Africa. It's also why many now believes that we're being controlled by a silly slave syndrome myth, a myth that presents what would in fact be the least plausible and least effective method used for controlling generations of millions of people. It's simply not how true brainwashing works. It's also why many of us now believes that we're our own worst enemies, in spite of such a brutally horrific history and ongoing reality that proves that what oppressive forces are in fact still our worst enemies. Our people are drowning in false information that keeps us divided and confused to the benefit of the system of white supremacy. And it's all by deliberate design. White oppressive forces have intentionally fed lots of false information into our communities in regards to our plight and condition, because doing so now prevents us from unifying ourselves against the white oppressive society. They have spread so much false propaganda into our communities to such an extent that we're not able to come together to make any sensible conclusions in the interest of liberating ourselves. This isn't some feeble-minded conspiracy theory. It's the truth that they hide from us. In 1968, white social engineering scientists were hired by the Kerner Commission to thoroughly study the African American population. Their mission was to find the reason for that decade's unprecedented unified black protests against the white establishment, and then to develop methods and remedies for countering the problem. They learned by thoroughly studying the African American population that while the white oppressors, through their weaponry advantages of guns, rifles, cannons, and explosives, were able to brutally invade and enslave Africans, They, however, cannot win our loyalty or sustain peace with us indefinitely unless our minds were manipulated to think in ways that facilitated that long-term oppression and ways that would prevent us from seeking retribution against our oppressors. Because whenever people are oppressed for long durations, their collective aggressions against their oppressors will continue to grow until it reaches a boiling point wherein which acts of massive rebellion and retribution becomes inevitable. The oppressed always eventually rebels against their oppressors. This is an inherent response within the collective psyche, the human psyche, whenever people are held under long-term oppression. This is what was actually happening amongst the African American population during the 1960s. White racism had reached a boiling point within the collective psyches of the African American population, which resulted in that decade's unprecedented unified Black protest. White oppressive forces determined then that by inundating us unrelentingly with fraudulent propaganda campaigns that keeps us thinking in ways that are against our own interests and in ways that instead serves the white society, they could prevent that unified Black protest and retribution against their white society. Therefore, they started deploying these propaganda campaigns to meet that objective. It's how they gradually ended the Black Power movement of the 1960s and how they prevent it from now happening again. Here's the hidden reason why this is being done to us. Although the white government now publicly professes equality for all of its citizens, the hidden reality is that the government is unrelentingly committed towards the preservation of its nation's white social dominance and white social capital over its Black population. There's also an immense concern of massive unified Black retribution that secretly exists amongst the white ruling class, given the white society's long history of brutally discriminating and oppressing Black people. This unrelenting commitment towards maintaining the nation's white social dominance over Black people and immense concern of massive unified Black retribution resulted in white oppressive forces deploying propaganda campaigns against the Black population that meets those objectives. It was a logical choice, given that the blatant subjugation tactics used in the past for meeting those objectives had ran their course and had become no longer socially acceptable with the modern changing times. Furthermore, from the position of the government, it is a governmental duty to prevent dissent from arising amongst the subordinate population in order to maintain the stability of the nation as a matter of maintaining a status quo and protecting the national interests. Given the harsh uniqueness of the history shared between the white government and the Black population, to not have deployed this psychological warfare campaign against the entire Black population would have placed the government diametrically against its own interests, given the unprecedented Black protest that manifested during the 1960s. This is the truth of our plighted condition. Those white social scientists also determined that an aggravating core factor for the 1960s unprecedented unified Black protest was also caused by an elevated and unifying Black collective self-esteem brought on by the emergence of the Black Pride movement. Therefore, logically, they determined that by perpetually negatively distorting what the Black population believes about ourselves, they could lower our collective self-esteem, demoralize us, divide us, and shift our collective aggressions away from the white society and redirect it against ourselves. This is what's being done to us through those constant propaganda campaigns that keeps us believing the fraudulent worse about ourselves. It prevents us from engaging in unified Black retribution against the white society by keeping our collective aggression directed towards ourselves. This is the true reason why virtually all information that we receive about ourselves from the white society are consistently negative and Black racially demoralizing and Black racially devaluing. When critically thinking, can't you see just how cartoonishly unrealistic it actually is that all information that we receive about ourselves from white sources are consistently negative? That's cartoonishly unrealistic. It's a psychological warfare control system that utilizes the immense power that shame has upon the human mind to mentally enslave millions of Black people. Those of us who don't critically think never notices our mental change. You know, even if a bee could explain to a fly why honey is better than shit, the fly would not understand. Because the fly doesn't have the mental capacity to formulate the difference between honey and shit. Sadly, it's the same way for many of our people whose minds have been socialized to believe in so many false idiotic ideologies in regard to our plight and condition. Many therefore lack the mental capacity to see their own ignorance and their own mental change. They therefore goes from their cradles to their graves, never knowing the truth. Many Black people also reject the truth of our plighted condition because their identities are so deeply attached to those falsehoods regarding our plight and condition. They therefore instead clings to a biblical fairy tale and a silly slave syndrome myth. For many of us, those myths and lies are so deeply indoctrinated into our minds that we fight against our own people that are trying to free our minds from them. Many Black people are also afraid to accept the truth because of the inherent call for action that comes from accepting the truth. These Black people have literally been brainwashed to fear the truth and to hate those of us who speaks it. These are those among us that have been brainwashed to literally function as wardens of their own mental prisons. Black people, wake up. A religious book that has been made available to billions of us will never set us free. Because mental liberating information is never found within literature that is made so easily accessible to the oppressed. To free your mind from mental slavery, start reading banned books and start searching for contents on social media platforms that are being prevented from going viral. Those contents that are being heavily shadow banned, such as this. It's the only way you'll emancipate your mind from white mental slavery. It's time to wake up to our reality. Those who want to keep you believing in the Bible, those who want to keep you believing in Willie Lynch, are keeping you mentally enslaved, are keeping your minds dumbed down, distracted. There are social sciences that are being deployed against us. They're deploying information warfare against us. Information warfare is when one group feeds disinformation to another group that keeps that group thinking and behaving in ways that allows the other group to continue exploiting and mistreating them. Brothers and sisters, that is the truth of our plight and condition. Welcome to reality. One love and peace.